Today, we're going to peel back the layers of success with Matt Palise, the mastermind behind Red Rich Fruits. Under Matt's helm, the Napoleon family business has grown into a successful national enterprise, and he's here to tell us all about it. Matt, good to see you. Let's go to the very beginning.
Yep.
How did you start in the business? What drew you to it?
So I was a CPA accountant before all this, and I was a financial controller in the industry and saw the opportunity. So this was back in 2010. It was a fairly stagnant market, and so I'd known Joe and Michael Napoleon from Red Rich Fruits, who had been farming in the Yarra Valley forever. So I think since 1948. We had a really good relationship. We saw the problem. So the problem is that there was no young people and the industry wasn't transparent at all. So there was a big opportunity for a business with, a strong foundation in growing to change the way that fruit was marketed. So we got together in 2010. We bought a stand in the Sydney markets, and was the catalyst from turning us from a $30 million business into a $150 million business.
Because it is a complex business, isn't it?
People don't understand what it takes to get a piece of fruit from growing from the farm all the way to the customer. It's a long process with lots and lots of layers and lots of variables.
So those layers include building relationships, does it? Must be so important.
It does.
How do you do that?
Well, so we market for 84 growers around the country. Most of our relationships is transparency and accountability. So everyone's got a job to play in the supply chain. So if you're a grower, you've got to grow it, you've got to get it to the specification required. If you're a marketer, you've got to market it at the right price and get that market price, and then all in between. So we're accountable ourselves, and we're fully transparent with those costs in the supply chain.
Okay, we often hear about the challenges growers face in terms of the pricing model, and how do you overcome that?
So the price in the market is a tough one for us because most fruit is commodity traded. So we're getting a market price or a wholesale price essentially. Ourselves and all of our growers, we try and focus on maximising the return. So limiting the amount of movements that product goes through, growing the best possible product at the farm level so you're getting as much into the specification as you can so you can maximise every dollar you get at the end there.
Okay, speaking of that, currently the big supermarkets, the whipping boy for governments blaming them for inflation and the like.
Yeah.
You supply to Coles, Woolworths, Aldi.
Yeah.
How do you negotiate with a big supermarket?
My advice to anyone trying to get into a retailer is know your market, right? So data is the key. So when we started and we were only an apple vendor back in the day and we wanted to do mandarins or mangoes, we did a full analysis on their business and what the consumer was looking for and how we can add value to that market. So if you're going to compete with any big farm, whether it's Costas for us or any of the really large producers in our industry, you can't go head to head with them. Right? You have to do what they can't do. So we always found that, one, know the data, know the consumer, and then move quicker than them. So do the things that the big guys can't do.
So as a grower, you've got to be entrepreneurial. Look for new products that are undersupplied to the market. Be nimble.
Yeah, or better ways to do things. Growers, in my view, are some of the best business people in the world because they're facing more challenges than everybody else. So it's weather, they're facing markets, they're facing technological advances. They've got all these variables thrown at them. So every day you have to overcome something.
So how do you use technology?
So we originally used it as a cost replacement model. So we put the state-of-the-art packing machines into all of our facilities. So instead of people grading the fruit, we had big computer systems that were taking 300 pictures of each individual piece of fruit to limit the labour that was in our sheds. And then that's evolved to farming models, which we use to better forecast the crops. So where it records all of the water use, the size of the fruit throughout the growing process, the weather conditions, whatever it is, and that'll forecast our crops better. So we want to know what we've got before we've got it, and then we've got a huge stock management system which tracks from when it's harvested, from when we ship it to a retailer, and all of the costs associated through that chain.
Wow.
So we try and know the minutiae.
So everyone looks at sort of factories and robotics in factories, on car production floors, things like that. You do exactly the same with growing and distributing fruit, basically.
Except we have a challenge where we're dealing with a delicate item, right?
Yeah,
so it'd be a lot easier if we could have the robots everywhere along that chain, but eventually we will.
Yeah.
Eventually, farming will look like a factory because it has to, because of the cost of labour.
So I would suggest that the only way for a lot of farmers to do this, and it's a lesson for other small businesses, is to cooperate with each other for this sort of technology.
Yeah, and that's the rationalisation that's happening. So any small farmer approach someone like us,
Yeah.
a family-owned marketing company, approach the guy next door. That's the only way we're going to survive, is investing together in some of these technologies and stage it out. You know, my advice to any farmer is start small. You know, you don't have to have robotics the whole way through the chain. So you could put in a water management system where, where it measures the moisture in the bark or the soil, and then you can start to limit the amount of water you use to grow that crop. Start there, that's probably entry level, and then you can look at your pack houses and so forth from there.
Can I go back to something you mentioned in passing? Differentiate yourself by having a proprietary product.
Yeah.
You're in fruit. How can you have a proprietary product? An apple's an apple, a mandarin's a mandarin?
If only they were apples, were only apples. So they have plant breeding programs all over the world where they develop varieties over 20 years. So we've actually got an apple variety coming called the Cosmic Crisp, which was developed for 20 years in the Washington State University, when we're bringing that to market this year. So what we're looking is, you've got to look at the problem. So in apples, for instance, consumers are unhappy with the quality that they get. So whether that's texture, inconsistency, or bruising. So you're trying to solve the problems.
So what's Cosmic Crisp going to be when I see it on the supermarket shelves?
It is.
How's it going to be different?
So for us, it's different because it's consistent. So it's juicy, crunchy, and bright and beautiful. It doesn't brown, and it'll be the same experience on the shelf every day of the year. And we believe it's going to change the way consumers expect an apple to be when they go into the supermarket. So we're very, very excited about it, and we've spent a fortune to getting this ready, because from once we signed the contract for Cosmic Crisp in 2019, and it's 2024, and we're only going to have a handful of boxes this year. So it's a 10-year job to get an apple from a new variety in Australia to the customer.
Mate, I'm just stunned at the thought that goes in. I thought a farm's a farm, and you just whack it into the markets. The process is incredible. When you look back, what's the one best bit of advice you can give to small business owners?
Yeah, so the rear mirror is always clearer than the windscreen. Look, my advice to anyone is running a small business is very hard. Yep. So the first thing, and everyone is up late at night dreaming about where they want to go. So the biggest challenges when you're expanding, and we found it out going from 30 to 150 million in about 10 years, is infrastructure and capacity and people. Because every milestone you go past in that cycle, whether it's 2 times, 3 times the growth that they've expected, the people is what's going to get you there.
And the rear window is much clearer than the windscreen.
Always.
I'm going to pinch that one.
Yeah.
That is a great say.
Yeah.
Matt, really appreciate your time today.
No, appreciate it being
That's
here.
great.